Hello everyone, Diane here today with another wonderful project that I wanted to share with you today. I did use my BES4 software that came with my embroidery machine to make this project. Don't you just love this cute little flag? So what I'm going to do today is show you how you can make one. Come along and follow with me. Hi ladies, these are the materials that you're going to need in order to make the project. I did use a cutaway stabilizer to give a little bit of stability for the project. I will have the measurements in the post and hopefully be able to attach a PDF file for you with the measurement sizes for each of these pieces. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with our project. The first thing that this is going to do is a placement stitch. Okay, the first piece of fabric is going to go up in this corner here, and what we're going to do is leave about a 1/4 inch on this side of the line that's stitched and this side of the line that's stitched. And then this is going to stitch this piece and tack it down. Okay, now we're going to take our white piece, which is the next one, and lay on top of this piece. And that's going to stitch that into place. If you want to, you can remove from the hoop and trim this up just a little bit closer to the stitch line, or you can just go ahead and fold this piece back. If you want, you can give it a finger pressing or use an iron to go ahead and press that down in place. I'm going to trim mine and then come back. Okay, now I've got the next red piece of fabric laid on top of the white one we just stitched. I'm going to stitch that one down in place. Fold this over, finger press this down. You can always take the time to remove from the hoop and give it a good press with the iron if you want to. And this one's going to tack this piece down in place. Next, we're going to get our blue piece of fabric. We're going to lay that upside down right here and stitch this into place. Okay, I'm going to fold this back, press that down some. Okay, now we're going to do is tack this blue piece into place. Okay, the next thing is to start adding the rest of the stripes to the flag. We take our white piece here and we're going to lay that down along this edge here. And stitch that in place. Just fold this back. I'm going to go ahead and iron this some so it doesn't flop around like it's doing there. I'll be right back. Okay, I've got my next red piece of fabric lying down here. We're going to stitch that in place. Okay, so go ahead and press this down, and then we're going to do 2 more strips, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've gone ahead and stitched the other 2 strips in place. The next one is going to do is tack this edge of this piece down. Okay, this video section here is out of order. I realized that I really should have put a placement line stitching for this piece and on the other side as well. So I'm going to make an adjustment in the design. So you'll have a placement line to help you line up this piece of fabric. So go ahead and continue following with the rest of the video. Now we're going to start working on the white border pieces that go around the outside edge. And I used a tone on tone white that's got these cute little stars on it. I'm going to put that along this top edge up here. And that looks like it's in good shape. Then we're going to do the bottom piece along here. You want to try and get it centered from here to here pretty evenly. Next piece is going to be the white one here, but I'm going to press these back in place first before I stitch down the next white piece. Okay, we've got our two white pieces in place on the ends, and now we're going to place the white pieces along the edges here. Okay, we'll line up this one here. As long as you've got this edge here nice and straight, we shouldn't need a placement stitch here. I think this is going to work just fine. Okay, I'm going to take this out and press these back, and then we'll do a stitch around that's going to hold all of this in place. We'll be right back. Okay, now what we're going to do is go ahead and stitch down the outside border. Okay, it's time to go ahead and add our text, so I'm going to pause so I can do a thread color change. I'm going to put in some blue thread. Okay, we're ready to go ahead and start our text. I'm going to let this continue on, and I'll come back with the next color change. The blue text has finished stitching. I've changed my thread now to red to go ahead and finish stitching the rest of the text. If you want, you could leave yours blue, but I'm changing mine to red. back after it finishes typing out the text. The red text has finished stitching. Now we're going to start making applique stars on our project. So if you haven't done applique before, what it'll do is put down a placement stitch for your fabric. So let's do the placement stitch. The white stitching here does kind of blend in, so you might not be able to see it in the camera, but you can see it when you actually stitch it out. I'm going to take my white fabric here and just lay that down in place, and now it's going to stitch this in place. This is where you would typically use a pair of scissors to trim close to that stitched line. I have a pair of scissors like this. They're a bent handle. It makes it conveniently easy to get into the hoop. It's best if you go ahead and remove your project so that you can get close to stitching. So I don't have to try and set this up near or set my camera up over. I'm going to just try to do this from here. You want to trim close without cutting the stitching. It's obviously easier to do when you can take the hoop completely out to another work area. I really do enjoy doing applique. Okay, let's get this piece here. And that looks really good there. And then the next thing will be for the next stitch. This one here is a bean stitch. Typically, a lot of people will do a satin stitch, but I'm just doing a bean stitch because I wanted a little more rustic look. So let's put our hoop back in place here. And here we go. Going to move in place for the next placement stitch, for the next star. Again, just lay the fabric down in place. Now, if you're doing a project that has large pieces of fabric, you can use a spray adhesive or even a glue stick underneath the back side of the fabric to hold that in place. But these are so small, they're not going to go anywhere, so I'm just laying them in there like that. There again, you're going to want to take the hoop out and use your scissors to go ahead and trim that fabric close along the stitching line again without cutting those stitches. So I'm going to finish this up. You're going to repeat this same process until all of the stars are completed, and then we'll come back. Well, we're getting down to the finish line with our project. What you're going to do next is with your backing pieces on the 8.5-inch wide piece here, you're going to go and adhere your heat and bond or whatever other type of material you have. Instead of using a sewing machine, we're going to use the heat and bond because it just makes it really quick and easy to do. So you want to get your iron hot enough and press that down in place. And then after it's been properly adhered, this particular one, you just remove this backing here. And then what we're going to do is fold this back and then heat this down in place. It will take a few seconds to make sure it's securely heated up there. And then do the same thing with the other piece. Okay, now that we've got those ironed down, you're going to take time to put your ribbon pieces here, and you want them so that the raw edge is here and the folded edge is on the inside. I went ahead and used some painter's tape to hold that in place so that it won't move when it's getting stitched. Then you're going to take your pieces of fabric that we worked on and just lay them down, aligning them on the edges here and making sure that they're centered, and they're going to overlap here so that when we turn this around, it'll just all be nice and cased. Then the next thing to do is to just take this back to our machine, stitch it in place. Okay, we've got our hoop back in our machine. We're going to stitch these down in place. Now, if you want to, you could go ahead and redo that last step for extra stitching. And then we're going to show you how we flip this around to complete the project. Well, let's finish up here. We're going to go ahead now and remove our project from our hoop. Then we're going to take a ruler, and I would measure 1/4 to like 3/8 of an inch from that stitching line that we did here. So line your ruler up, and if you use a rotary blade, it makes it nice and quick. We're going to just go ahead and trim this all the way around. Now that we've got that all trimmed, so that your corners aren't going to be very bulky, what you want to do is just trim off the corners at an angle. That'll help remove the bulk of fabric at those corners. When you go to turn it, it'll look a lot nicer. Then we're going to just take and open this up here and just start pushing the fabric through. And then on the other side, do the same thing. And then whatever tool you have to push those corners out with, you'll want to use. I didn't bring mine over here with me, so I'll just use my scissors just to give you an idea. You really don't want something sharp like this, but just go ahead and gently poke all these corners out nicely. Okay. Reach in there, the other side, and finish gently poking out the corners. And there's that tape from holding that ribbon in place. Get this last one here. Okay, then take some time with your iron and press along the edges. Just give it a nice, crisp, finished edge when you take the time to do that. But when you finish your project, take the time to share it on the group so that we can all see what you made and enjoy it. And there we are with our finished project. Just take a dowel and run it across here, hang it up and display. Thanks for stitching along with me today.